good. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cara Rivera, as David said. Thanks, David. And we're very excited to be here this afternoon at this really wonderful day. It's been interesting hearing everyone's presentation so far. When David called and asked about being involved with STM in this meeting, we had just gone through some RFPs. And David and I have worked together back as colleagues, and let's see, you were at Elsevier, I was representing a society, and you were the vendor, and we've worked with you as KWF being the vendor, and so it seemed really fitting that we look at this topic. Because as all of us have been involved with, some RFPs and the partnerships that ensue really work beautifully. And you get a lot of information, you do everything you say, everyone enters into the proposal and presentation and discussion phases, contract negotiations, all with good faith. And sometimes it seems that things do not go well. Everyone still did all their homework, worked really hard, got all the information, did the needs assessment, talked carefully, entered in with good faith, and yet things really were very, very difficult and challenging. And so when I introduce the esteemed panelists here, you'll hear about their experiences with this and hopefully bring it to you. But we thought it would be important to look at, well, what goes wrong in the process? What can we learn? We've seen, especially when there's technology involved, it becomes particularly difficult, and that's almost all the time. It also is been our experience that some of the larger partnerships, like a society and a commercial or university press publisher, those tend to go better. Why is that? And I think there's some good reasons there. So we thought today would be a way to look at 3 cases and get some ideas, and of course we'd love to hear your ideas at the end and Q&A throughout. To hear what your experiences have been and how you think the process can be improved. We broke up our talk into 3 segments. I thought it would be interesting, certainly as a consultant, to learn more about what the literature says. We have been questioning, way before David called, how to improve. We may not be Six Sigma, but we are certainly looking always at ways of improving and trying to do a better job. It's never good when you're the consultant and things don't go well afterward. You want to have created all that information and supported both the client and had respect for the vendor to be able to create a really strong foundation for the partnership. And so I thought I'd look at least spend a couple of hours looking for some pearls that we might find through the literature. So I'm going to just go over a couple of those that I found. And then the case studies, we're going to do one partnership around an online platform, one around the publishing partnership, and another around a peer review system. And then time for Q&A. The esteemed panelists we have here, Liz Keys, who's from the American Pharmacists Association, and we have Mike Reardon from Wiley, and we have Ed Lebo from the American Anthropological Association, and Mike Markey from Adipon, Ken Cornfield from ASCO, and Richard Wynn from Aries. So we're really thrilled to have everyone here. I was very fortunate. I think a lot of you have probably tried to put together panels before, and this is a miracle. So I'm really thrilled. Okay, so just looking at the couple of articles that I found, this is just from CIO.org or .com, and I thought it was really interesting. It's hard without being able to see back there, but here was the whole concept of when your partnership is a strategic or a transactional one. I think we've all seen what it's like to be on either the society or the vendor side when it's more transactional. One of the parties usually doesn't have as much respect or as much interest in the other party as perhaps they could. And I think today what's really important, and I think what you'll see these partnerships really have in common, is that they're much more of a strategic partnerships. And certainly that feels a lot better. We have a client, in fact, that treats us very much like a vendor. In fact, they tell us all the time, why do you need to know that? You're a vendor. We can get rid of you in 30 days. And it goes on and on like that. And that is, we and many people get joy out of your job. Again, going back to the Six Sigma, you really want to have that strategic relationship and to really feel and learn what is it that our partner cares about. How can we support that? I thought one of the most interesting points that was made by this CIO article is that about the value optimization. The idea, especially in today's climate where there's such downward pressure on pricing, to really want as a vendor to optimize your pricing and to have that as a goal. I'm certain that the folks from Sheridan and everyone up here, that is a goal all the time, is how to get more businesses oftentimes to, or you're forced to, or you have to create value, of course, and excellent customer service, but it's also part of it is finding ways to find those efficiencies to lower your price. Another article I looked at was Boston Consulting Group. I tried to look through all of the different major consulting organizations outside of the scholarly publishing industry to see what did they think were some of the best practices. And here they had suggestions that I thought the one that fit the most is something that David and I talked about when we talked about this panel to begin with, which was sufficient time and resources. A question we have is there's a kind of a process that most people follow in RFPs. You identify, you get a consultant, or yourselves who the different vendors are that your colleagues are using or that fit your needs. You have a general sense of that at the beginning. And you identify those, you do the needs assessment, you create the RFP, you send the RFP, you answer questions, you get a proposal, it comes back, you evaluate it, you try to compare apples to apples. It's a list of needs. And this article is really saying, well, have you really allowed for sufficient time to go through that process? Sometimes we feel that the process, because sometimes it involves a huge number of people on a committee and you can only see them once in the entire process. Sometimes it just is not either the expectation of the consultant or the society or the vendor that more time can be provided. But one of the questions we have, will be interesting to see what everyone says, is that perhaps more time should be allocated to the process to really dig into what the needs are. And then the last one I found was a very well-cited article in Forbes, which is, that RFPs are a complete waste of time. And what I really liked here is we hear all the time from, in fact, I'm looking at someone who I just had the conversation, I won't look at them now though, that I just had the conversation with about the need to have conversations ahead of time so that vendors and societies can actually know each other going into it, so that it's not quite as sterile a process. And that's something that we've thought about for many, many years and are, actually consciously trying to figure out how we can, can work that in and what makes sense to people. So we'll certainly be looking at that more, but I'll be interested in hearing what you all have to say about that. I also liked on this article the idea of having 2 layers of meetings. And again, we've had some experience with this where you have people that are going to be, usually you've got the people that are going to be working on the contract with a vendor, and you've got the people who are going to be doing the day-to-day work. And the idea of kind of putting both those teams, the matching teams and the society, with the leadership and also with the daily implementation team, to be able to make both of those kinds of meetings and separate meetings a part of the process. So those were things that I thought were interesting in some of the research. So with that, we're going to do the 3 case studies, and the last of the 3, I'll be asking some questions at the end, and hopefully that'll get us all going for your questions and suggestions as to how we can improve this for everybody. Thanks. So to begin, Liz and Mike.